What if I told you that the murder ballads you grew up hearing, the ones passed down through country music and the old-time tradition, are not the true stories they claim to be? Not all of them. Some were written by the killer. Some were written to protect a guilty man. Some got the victim's name right and everything else completely wrong. These are 9 real murders, 9 real victims, and 9 songs that decided the truth was not dark enough. This is the true crime history they did not teach you, and it runs straight through the heart of the American murder ballad tradition. Before we get to number 1, and number 1 is the most famous family massacre in Appalachian history, and the song about it may have left out the only detail that explains why it happened, we're going to stop at number 2. Because number 2 involves a 14-year-old girl who lay in an unmarked grave for over a century, while the song that bore her name called her someone who deserved what she got. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button now. We cover the real history behind country music every week, the stories that did not make the radio, and the facts that got left out of the songs. Hit subscribe and let's get into it. Here are 9 country songs tied to real documented murders, ranked from unsettling to absolutely devastating. Some of these songs are preserved in the Library of Congress Archive of Folk Culture. Some of them trace back to what collectors call the child ballads, the canon of traditional English and Scottish ballads catalogued by Harvard scholar Francis James Child in the 19th century. What they all have in common is this: the song and the record are not the same story. Number 9. Stagger Lee. The murder that turned a bar fight over a hat into a folk mythology. Lee Shelton shot Billy Lyons on Christmas Day, 1895, in a St. Louis saloon. The newspapers covered it the next morning. Court records confirm the conviction: first-degree murder. Shelton died in prison in 1912. That part is real, and it is exactly as unglamorous as it sounds. 2 men argued over a Stetson. One of them pulled a trigger. What followed is not real. Over the next century, more than 400 recorded versions transformed Lee Shelton into an unstoppable outlaw who could fight the devil, cheat death, and walk out of hell itself. The real Billy Lyons, a family man with children, was erased from every version. The song never asks what Billy Lyons left behind. It is not interested in Billy Lyons. The record shows a petty argument and a drunk with a gun. Country and blues music turned it into a legend. The man who died for a hat has been forgotten in every version since. You know the song. You probably don't know his name. Number 8. Frankie Silver. The first woman hanged in North Carolina, and the trial that never let her speak. On December 22, 1831, Frances Silver killed her husband Charlie in their cabin on the Tow River in Mitchell County, North Carolina. She was convicted of first-degree murder and hanged in Morganton on July 12, 1833. The ballad that circulated afterward painted her as a cold-blooded axe murderess who dismembered her husband and burned the evidence in the fireplace. Here is what the song never tells you. The clerk of court at her own trial, B.S. Gaither, said on the record that if Frankie Silver had been allowed to plead self-defense and testify about her husband's abuse, she more than likely would have been acquitted. She was not allowed to. Under North Carolina law in 1832, accused felons could not testify in open court. She went to the gallows without ever telling her side of the story. The ballad she supposedly sang from the scaffold was almost certainly not her own composition. The same claim was made about Tom Dooley and Peter DeGraff, and historians have confirmed none of them. The legend got her voice. The courtroom never did. Number 7. Pearl Bryan. The headless body in the field and the ballad that called her naive. Pearl Bryan was a 22-year-old Sunday school teacher from Greencastle, Indiana. She arrived in Cincinnati on January 28, 1896, 5 months pregnant, seeking help from her boyfriend, dental student Scott Jackson. On February 1st, her headless body was found in a field in Fort Thomas, Kentucky. The coroner confirmed cocaine in her stomach. She had been drugged. Her head has never been found. Jackson and his roommate Alonzo Walling were convicted and hanged on March 20, 1897. Both refused to reveal the location of her head, even on the gallows. The ballad that followed cast Pearl as a naive country girl destroyed by city slickers, a cautionary tale about young women leaving home. What it did not say is that she traveled to Cincinnati trusting the man whose child she was carrying. She was not naive. She was betrayed by someone she loved. The song turned a premeditated, documented killing into a lesson about wandering too far from home. Those are not the same story, and Pearl Bryan deserved better than a lesson. Number 6. Poor Ellen Smith, the murder ballad that gave the killer the microphone. Ellen Smith was 17 years old when she was shot through the heart in the woods behind the Zinzendorf Hotel in Winston-Salem, North Carolina on July 20, 1892. The Sentinel reported the murder on page 1 the following morning. Peter DeGraff, her former lover, had lured her there with a note worded to suggest a reconciliation. When she arrived, he shot her through the chest. Her last words, as reported at the time, were, "Lord, have mercy on me." DeGraff confessed to the murder on the gallows in 1894. The ballad that emerged, Poor Ellen Smith, is sung from DeGraff's point of view. He is the narrator. He is the one who gets to mourn. One buried variant of the song, seldom recorded in the past 90 years, goes further. It calls Ellen a girl who was bad and implies she brought her fate on herself. Ellen Smith never got to tell her story. Peter DeGraff got 2 ballads. One of them is still being recorded today. That is how the tradition decided to remember this case, and the 17-year-old in the ground had no say in it. Number 5. Naomi Wise, the orphan maiden the song invented. Naomi Wise was drowned in the Deep River in Randolph County, North Carolina in 1807. Jonathan Lewis lured her to the water, held her under, and left. He was tried, and the charge he was ultimately convicted on was not the murder. It was escaping from jail. He fled, was eventually caught, and walked out of court on a technicality that let him outlive his victim by decades. The ballad is one of the oldest American murder songs on record. Folklorist Alan Lomax documented it as a foundational piece of the Appalachian tradition, and it appears in the Rude Folk Song Index as one of the earliest surviving New World murder ballads. It presents Naomi as a guileless orphan girl, innocent, pure, with no history and no claims on anyone. Contemporaneous accounts and court documents tell a different story. Naomi Wise was an adult woman with at least 2 children. She was pursuing Jonathan Lewis for a child support bond at the time of her death. That detail is not in the song. The song needed a maiden. The record shows a mother who went to the river to collect a debt and never came home. If you're watching this and you're starting to notice the pattern, that these songs consistently chose who deserved your sympathy and who didn't, and the victims rarely won that vote, hit that like button. It helps this video reach people who love country music and want the real history behind it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now. Number 4. Frankie and Johnny, the woman who was acquitted and destroyed by the song anyway. On October 15, 1899, Frankie Baker shot Alan Britt in St. Louis after he came at her with a knife. Britt died the following day. Frankie Baker was tried, and the jury returned a verdict of self-defense. The judge handed her gun back. She walked out of that courtroom innocent under the law. Within 48 hours, a man named Bill Dooley was performing a song about the killing on the street corners of St. Louis. The song spread. Frankie and Johnny became one of the most recorded ballads in the history of American music. He was her man, and he'd done her wrong, became the line everyone knows. What the song did not say, she was acquitted. What the song did not say, self-defense was the verdict. Frankie Baker spent the rest of her life trying to outrun that song. She sued Hollywood twice over film adaptations of the story and lost both times. She died in 1952. The jury said innocent. The song said otherwise. The song is what you remember. Number 3. Tom Dooley, the man who hanged, and the woman who may have done it. Tom Dula was convicted of the murder of Laura Foster and hanged in Statesville, North Carolina on May 1, 1868. Laura Foster was found stabbed and buried in a shallow grave. The evidence pointed to Dula, and the jury agreed. He maintained his innocence on the gallows. Here is what the song does not include. At the time of the murder, a significant number of Wilkes County residents believed that Ann Melton, Tom Dula's lover and Laura Foster's cousin, was the actual killer, and that Dula either helped cover it up or took the blame to protect her. Ann Melton was tried as an accessory and acquitted. She died in 1875. Accounts of a deathbed confession have circulated ever since, though none has been confirmed in writing. The Kingston Trio made Tom Dooley a household name in 1958. Doc Watson, the North Carolina flat-picking legend from Deep Gap, just miles from where Laura Foster was buried, also recorded the song, grounding it back in the Appalachian soil it came from. The song follows Tom. It does not mention Ann. A man was hanged. A woman walked free. The song only followed one of them. Number 2. Delia's Gone. The 14-year-old in the unmarked grave. On Christmas Day, 1900, in Savannah, Georgia, a 14-year-old girl named Delia Green was shot and killed by Moses Houston, also 14 years old. Contemporary Savannah press accounts from that week confirm the ages and the date. Delia Green was buried in an unmarked grave in Savannah, and she lay there without a marker for 120 years, until community members and researchers placed a headstone on her grave in 2020. Johnny Cash recorded Delia's Gone most famously in 1994. In his version, Delia is a woman who done him wrong. He sings about tying her to a chair. He sings about shooting her down. It is a striking, chilling recording. It is also a portrait of a woman who, in the song's framing, deserved what she got. The real Delia Green was a child. She denied any romantic relationship with Houston, according to the Savannah reporting at the time. She never got to grow up. She lay in an unmarked field for 120 years while a song carried her name across the world and told a story she never lived. The song is on streaming services right now. Her grave was unmarked until 2020. That distance is the whole story. Number 1. The Murder of the Lawson Family. The song that left out the only detail that matters. On December 25, 1929, in Germantown, North Carolina, Charlie Lawson shot and killed his wife Fanny and 6 of their 7 children. He then walked into the woods and took his own life. His son Arthur, sent on an errand just before the killings, was the only child to survive. The murders were discovered that Christmas Day and became national news within hours. The Carolina Buddies recorded the Lawson family murder in January 1930, within weeks of the event. The Stanley brothers later recorded their own version, cementing it as one of the defining Appalachian tragedy ballads in the tradition. The ballad presents the killings as inexplicable, motive unknown. Charlie Lawson is a man who simply broke. The song asks no questions. It offers no reason. It ends in grief, with the motive intact and buried. Researchers who have studied this case in the decades since have pointed to evidence suggesting that Charlie Lawson may have been facing the exposure of a serious family secret, and that the killings were an attempt to silence what was about to come out, what criminologists today would classify as a familicide, driven by anticipated exposure. If that evidence holds, the song recorded weeks after the event was not just incomplete. It was a curtain drawn over the only thing that explains why a man killed his own children on Christmas morning. The most famous family murder in Appalachian music history may not have been a mystery at all. The song needed it to be one. The community was still in shock when the Carolina Buddies went into the studio. The motive went into the ground with the family, and the song made sure it stayed there. If you made it all the way to number 1, you now know something that most country music fans never find out. These songs are not just dark, they are incomplete. The victims got a legend, the truth got a shallow grave. Smash that like button if this changed the way you hear these ballads. And drop a comment below. Which entry hit you the hardest? Are you Team Tom Dooley, where a man may have hanged for someone else's crime? Team Frankie and Johnny, where the jury said innocent and the song said otherwise for the next 100 years? Or Team Delia's Gone, where the real girl was 14 years old and lay without a headstone until 2020? I read every comment, and I want to know which one stopped you cold. If you haven't subscribed to the Country Cut yet, hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. We put out new videos every week on the real history behind country music, the stories that didn't make the radio, and the people who got left out of the song. I'd love to have you on this journey with us. Remember, sometimes the darkest truth in country music isn't in the crime. It's in what the song decided not to say.